This Sunday is the first Sunday of 2025. How often are we going to get that one wrong? But here we go. We're still in Luke. We got a lot of Luke coming up. We've been in Luke for a bit. Jesus is growing up. What is he now? 12? Oh my goodness. What's going on with this boy?
Well, he gets lost, or at least his parents think he's lost.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
he says he's exactly where he's supposed to be, and why don't you know that, Mom and Dad? It's a really interesting story that invites us into um, his clarity of call, and I think the sermon title is something like "Clear About the Call." It really
Hmm.
is amazing at this age. As a child, as a middle schooler, what we would call a middle schooler these days, um, how clear Jesus is about where he's supposed to be and the work that he is supposed to be about. And I think in the new year, first Sunday of the year, it's a really wonderful invitation to us to meditate on clarity and to
Hmm.
meditate on call. It's a great way to start. And we've got our star words for this Sunday as well.
Star words, not Star Wars. Let's make sure we keep copyright infringement out of this
That's
episode.
right. That's right.
So okay, we have a lot going on here. Jesus, we're in Luke 2, the last bit of Luke chapter 2. Luke 2 is like a whole big chunk of time because Luke 2 has Jesus being born, then he's like 8 days old and 40 days old, and now he's 12 years old. So there's a lot that moves through quick. So we get Jesus at 12 at the temple. And then Star Words. What is Star Words? Why are we doing it? I actually have mine written down here on my desk from last year, so I know what it is. These are rhetorical questions, but
Yeah.
but give us a little bit of Star Words and why it's landing on Sunday.
Right. So Sunday, January 5th, is the closest Sunday to Epiphany, which of course is January 6th. But it is how many days after the birth of Jesus? It's Three Kings, 12th day, right? 12 days of
Yep.
Christmas. So the Magi appear to Jesus in the manger on January 6th, we say, Epiphany, and this is the day of light, the day when things are revealed and things are made clear. So, a lot of Protestant churches across the country celebrate this day with something called Star Words. At Riverside, we have our children pass them out, and we believe that the word that you receive somehow has been uh, destined for you, and that if you sit with it, meditate with it, pray on it, that there might be something of the holy speaking to you through the word that you get. The word that I got last year was fearless. It's been an extraordinarily helpful word this year. Just so much
Mm.
going on in my life, but people find a lot of insight, wisdom, I think comfort and care as they journey through the year. With their word. I will share something funny. At the last church I was at, as well as at Riverside, we noticed that there is a word that gets left behind. Some people will leave it sitting on the pew, and that is the word forgive, forgiveness. And some people will try to come back and swap that word for anything else. Um, and I think maybe it's because it's hitting on something that maybe they don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
So there are some words in there that are tough to get, but there are words like play, like imagine, um, yeah, fun.
Yeah.
So we pass those out as a way for people to think about what God is saying to them in the new year.
So how are you going to hold these two things as one Sunday? We got Jesus as a 12-year-old, we got Epiphany and Star Words. I mean, there's obviously through lines we can establish here, but I'm just and confession, we're recording this a little bit in advance because of Christmas and stuff. So maybe the nuance will shift and you'll have to just come on January 5th to see exactly how it all does land. But at this point, how are you kind of holding all of that together?
Well, as I'm talking about epiphany and we're thinking about what epiphany means in terms of insight and wisdom and clarity, I do think there is something in the star words that help shine a light on possibility and imagination for us in our future. The star word doesn't say everything there is to say about your future, but Jesus is certainly in a moment where he is having maybe for lack of a better word, an epiphany moment where he's clear or gaining in clarity about who he has been sent to earth to be and what God is calling him to do.
Mm,
He certainly doesn't have the whole story. We don't think at 12 that he knows that he's heading to the cross, but he is very clear that he's here to be about his Father's work. I think that is true for each of us as well. And I think the invitation every year, every Epiphany, every morning, where mercies are fresh and new, is for us to get clear about, well, what's the call for today? What's
yeah.
God's call on my life? Marianne Williamson, I think, famously shared a prayer that she prays every day. Where would you have me go? What would you have me do?
Mm.
Because it may shift a little. And I think being open to the nuance of where God is calling you, leading you, pushing you, maybe kicking you today is a good thing to sit with
Yeah.
on January 5th.
Absolutely. What a way to begin a year. Just opening ourselves up to what that direction might be and that orientation might be, to use a star word there. And we can definitely see Jesus with that epiphany moment. I love in the text that tells us that going to the temple for Passover was something that Jesus and his family did every year. So it seems like, the previous story was him, getting dedicated 40 days after birth. And it seems like every year, a little family trip to Jerusalem to the temple was something that his family did. And I love that we get this moment at 12, which there's a whole lot of connections to at what age did rabbis invite their disciples to start following them. A lot of people think it was around 12, which also means Jesus' disciples were probably teenagers like that too. That was just the thing they did. So here we get Jesus kind of at that age. He's been going to the temple year after year after year. And this year he finds himself sitting in this space talking with these other temple leaders. And then my favorite thing, I just thought of this morning when I was thinking through this text. We see Jesus at the temple again in a few chapters as an adult for Passover, and he goes that time and he's turning over some tables. Did he see the money changers as a 12-year-old? And then, all these years later. So just the epiphany. When does the epiphany start? And when does it come to life? And it just makes me think of all the things we experience, and the star word you receive on January 5th might then, really get turned on at some point later, and God will continue to use it and work it into some necessary and miraculous way.
Right. And you sharing that, Jim, also reminds me of something you've said in the past about the burning bush and how the bushes are always burning. I just want to highlight for people that same sort of notion that epiphanies aren't these once in a lifetime, maybe even celestial blazing bush on fire moments. Sometimes they're just a slight nudge. Sometimes it's like
Yeah.
birthday candle size light, not the floodlights of I don't know, the Broadway stage. Um, because I think also, I said a few weeks ago in a sermon, a lot of times our calls are to the small place, to the family member, to our child, to our partner, to our coworkers, our schoolmates. Um, won't make the news, won't make us famous. But I think the same is also true for our epiphanies. Sometimes they too are just enough light to get to the next step. Not
Yeah.
like Jesus to see to the end, which could be crucifixion or could be a mountaintop. It could be any number of opening ups for us after that moment, but just to get to the next step and the next step. And I think that's important for us as well, especially in these times when it feels like the work, the calling is so huge and so heavy. And has left a lot of us, I think, exhausted perhaps and paralyzed and not really sure what to do. So to get back to basics and to get back to the work of the small thing, the breaking bread at table with friends,
Mm,
the foot washing, which is a small and an enormous thing at the same time, I think is also what God and our faith are calling us back to.
yeah.
The next step and the next step.
Yeah, if we're only looking for the big things, we're probably going to miss so much happening all around us. And we're not going to realize there is great depth in sometimes the seemingly smallest things if we would just slow down and pause once in a while and pay attention to it.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I don't know that you want to pull this in, but I just happen to know that Reverend Jim has a plan tomorrow and he'll be with his kids. And there are opportunities that we have out with our kids and our kids' friends just to show up as lovingly as we can. And there are so many ways that I think we shine and even reflect the love
Yeah.
of God just in the ways that we show up in the most mundane, unexpected places on a
Yeah.
farm with our kids and their classmates, you know?
That's tomorrow for me. Field trip for preschool with my boys. So we're gonna go to a farm. We're recording this before Christmas. Santa will be there. Hot cocoa and donuts. It's gonna be a good time. And
It's
and,
gonna
and
be good.
that's always the challenge too. I mean, come on. Parenting life is one where you can be overwhelmed by all the things. And how do I slow down to realize in the midst of this chaos there is something miraculous happening? Or how do I even help a kid reframe things when the smallest thing seems like the most big world shattering event? How do I be present with them in that? Because for them it is, maybe because the fact that their toothbrush fell on the floor and washing it off didn't fix it and we need a new one, but we don't have a new one. Not that that happened this morning or anything.
But it is the small things, and you have no idea when you walk out the door, as Marianne Williamson says, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? My mom
Yeah.
used to uh, go to the library to read at my little Catholic school that had one classroom for each grade, first through eighth grade, and she read regularly. And there was a young lady who, as an adult, became a teacher, saw my mom and came and told her, I was really struggling with reading, and you coming to the library to read to us like changed my
Wow.
life. And I became a teacher. My mother was like, I don't even know who this child is, right? I mean, she didn't really remember her, but just reading a book, right?
Yep.
Just going on a
Yep.
field trip, just being in the temple, studying with the learned people, and maybe even just having a conversation with your parents about what you think you're here to do,
Yeah.
can change your life, their perspective, their life, your perspective. Um, and again, may not make the news or change the world, but may change the world for some person. So I'm
Absolutely.
super excited about Epiphany and what we together will knit together in this year as a faith community at Riverside Church in the city of New York.
It's a perfect first Sunday of a new year. It's a great way to enter into it. Everyone in the New York area, do your best to get to the building. It's going to be wonderful. If you can't get to the building, if you're not in the New York area, we got you covered. As long as you got an internet signal, you can join us, trcnyc.org. You can find out more. Even for people online, I'm online. We'll get Star Words. We have a way of giving those to us online as well. It's fantastic. It's on the website. We'll give you info on Sunday. Join us Sunday, all the things, open Bible study in the morning, in the room, online, virtual coffee hour for us online folk to chat more after. I think we'll even get Reverend Thorne to chat with us after the sermon
I'll
and we
be
can talk
there.
about all the things. So lots of good stuff coming, and that's just Sunday number 1 of 52 still to come for 2025. So we are set for another fantastic year. Lot to do. There's always a lot to do, but you know what's coming this year. There's a lot to do, and we're gonna do it, and we're gonna do it together. And it starts this coming Sunday. Well, it doesn't start. It continues, I should say.
Continues. Continues.
We will see you on Sunday.